Yeah. There we go. So now we're recording. Sorry about that, ladies, and gentlemen. So I'll get started. So I'm Coach T. My name is Tanika Nesbitt, but a lot of my students, they actually gave me the name Coach T. I guess it made it shorter for people. So I have been a notary for maybe 14, 15, 16 years now. So of course, y'all know more than a decade. I used to work, this is me, I used to work full time as a supervisor for the government at the airport. And y'all know the stress that comes along with that. So, of course, me being wanting more and doing more things, I actually wanted more freedom. So what I decided to do is look for other things to do, which I didn't realize I already had a gold mine in my hand because I was a notary all this time. And I would renew my notary stamp because I started out in banking. I would renew my notary stamp and didn't think none of it because you hear people in and out say they can make money and it's like you only could charge $2, right? So that was my thought process coming into the door, right? So with that being said, I started to do some research on it, and get acclimated to how this works, what goes on. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York. So I see some New York in the house, and I currently live in the state of Georgia. And I was going to say Atlanta, but we all know when we say Georgia, especially coming from somewhere else, you like Atlanta, and everybody know that that's where you're from. But anyway, I'm a little bit on the outskirts of Atlanta, but I am in Georgia. So going back to how I decided to get started on this is I wanted more income. I wanted something different. I didn't want a 9 to 5 because I don't want to be in a job where I got to be there all the time, all day. And I'm restricted to traveling and things like that. That's just how my thought process started going. So ultimately, I had found out more stuff about notary work. And I was like, wait, hold up. So it's money to be made. And as I taught myself and I learned new things, I realized that this is an industry that a lot of people are not tapping into, right? And we want to know about these things. It was a lot of people doing this business more or less on the West Coast states than it was on the East Coast states for various reasons. But nevertheless, I got involved. I tapped into it. I realized the money that you can make. Guys, when I made my first $5,000 in 1 month, I was like, did I really just make that as a notary? Yes, I did. Right. So that's when I decided more people need to know about it. More people need to understand how this works, how you can make the money, because yes, certain states require certain things and uh, people feel like they're limited to that process. So lo and behold, I created my own atmosphere for notaries. I have a Facebook group. I started teaching, mentoring, and the more and more requests I got, people asking me questions in my DMs and things like that. That's when I decided to get started to share with other people. So what's a notary, right? So a lot of us do become notaries, but do we really know what a notary is? It's easy to become a notary these days. The easiest part about it is going to get sworn in and filling out that application, right? So a notary public is a licensed official who pretty much serves as an impartial witness. So we are signature fraud detectors. That is merely all that we do. We deter fraud by deterring who's sitting, standing, whatever, in front of you signing a document. That is our main goal. So we must know if that person is true that is in front of us. So with that being said, you have to understand IDs and things like that. We don't realize, some of us become notaries and don't realize how important your job is, right? We just think, oh, because I thought this. So I know that a lot of people get into the industry because maybe their job say sign up or become a notary, will pay for it or whatever the case is. And so we just do it and we don't realize that there's more to it. There's training to it. Nobody's going to take that fall for you but you, because your name is the only name on that notary stamp, right? So we are signature fraud detectives. That is what a notary is. The requirements for those of us who are not a notary, you have to be 18 or over, which is a good thing too, because if you have children that are 19 in college, they also can become notaries, right? And they can actually be a notary and do get money while they're in college, being a notary for those who need them, right? Then you have residency. Of course, you have to live in the state that you want to be a notary. there is a such thing as a dual notary, but at the end of the day, a dual notary has to live and work in two different places in order to become a notary there. Or if you're close to a neighboring state, you literally can go to the courthouse that is, close to you in another state and say, hey, is it possible for me to be a notary in this state as well? You literally can ask that courthouse, that Secretary of State, whoever it is that you are applying for the notarial certificate for, and they will let you know, hey, we allow it based on where you live, or we won't allow it, right? So residency, of course. Then you need some type of training, whether it's any other course outside of your state course, because the state is going to tell you your basic guidelines for your state, but it's not going to teach you how to do the job, right? So then you have exams for some states. For instance, in the state of Georgia, you have a $2 exam that you take. It's about 40 questions or something like that. But every state has different qualifications, and some have exams and some don't. The crazy part is, even in some states, county to county can be different, right? It could be a test in this county and not a test in that county. So you also need a background check. So when it comes to background check, I get this question a lot as well. People ask, hey, I've had charges before. So that does not totally disqualify you, right? So you literally, if you had a felony 5 years ago, then you still should apply, because there's a possibility that they will actually still allow you to be a notary, get you sworn in, based on your background check and things like that. One thing they don't tolerate is moral turpitude. And that is the only crime that, if you are charged with that, that is the only way that they're going to say it's an absolute no. And for the most part, misdemeanor. If you can mute, it would be appreciated. A misdemeanor, you more than likely will still be able to become a notary. So application process, Secretary of State or your Superior Court, you take your oath of office once all of that stuff is in. And then as a notary, even if that's all you do is say, I'm gonna get my notary certificate, you need a bond or you need your errors and omission insurance, right? So a bond, so the difference between the two is a bond protects the actual signer in front of you. The E&O insurance protects you, your notarization. Whatever it is that you notarize, that is what the E&O insurance protects. So a bond is required up front. So you'll know if you need a bond, because your state won't allow you to move forward without a bond with your application. If you don't need a bond, then I don't require you to get one. Nobody requires you to get one. But one thing we all must have is E&O insurance. So if you're a notary and you're practicing being a notary and you are notarizing documents and you don't have E&O insurance, you absolutely are in the wrong. You need to have E&O insurance. And guys, it's really cheap. You could literally start out small and then build up based on your experience. I think the smallest would be like 25,000 of E&O insurance, but if you get into any type of trouble, it covers those things. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where somebody took a loss, right? And you don't have no insurance, and now you got to go to court, and now you have to deal with certain things. And I'm sure some of us have seen online where people deeds are being stolen these days. If you happen to be that notary that did the notarization, and you don't have to be the one that's necessarily doing fraudulent stuff, but you got caught up in it. If you don't have any E&O insurance, you're coming out of your pocket. And if you don't have your business properly structured, now they're attacking your personal information, your personal home and all those things. So we want to avoid that, and we want to make sure every single notary has E&O insurance. So with that being said, I want to make sure you guys heard me. I need y'all to type E&O insurance in the chat, because I need to make sure you understand how important that is. Let's see what you guys are working with. E&O insurance, guys. As a notary, you don't need anything else but E&O insurance. Where can you get E&O insurance, guys? Where can you get it? You can get it from several places. Literally, where you get business insurance, you can get E&O insurance. I need to see more E&O insurance in the chat. It's too many of us in here not to be knowing that we don't need E&O insurance. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So why are notaries important, right? Because for some reason, I'm probably sure that you guys started seeing some craziness, started seeing more and more notaries pop up here talking about, oh, they know this, oh, they know that, right? So becoming a notary public is important to understand that each state has its own specific laws, regulations governing different notarial acts. However, the core principles and the laws is the same, right? Across the board, no matter where you are. So we pretty much are fraud detectives. We deter fraud. That's it, right? So our vital role in protecting the integrity of important documents, transactions, and people. So the presence of a notary ensures that the parties involved in the transaction, right, that they are entering to an agreement or any type of an agreement without coercion, pretty much, right? So that they're willingly signing a document in front of you and that you are solidifying that this document is notarized, so everything on it is true, right? You don't need to explain anything as far as what's in the document. You don't even need to know the specifics in a document, but you need to make sure that the document is completed in full. You don't ever want to notarize a document that's halfway full and then they come back later and try to fill it in, right? We got to protect ourselves as well. So from legal contracts, loan agreements, wills, affidavits, we serve as an impartial witness. Although you'll see on some documents when you are notarizing documents that, hey, they're asking for a witness and a notary, two different people, but an unofficial witness and an impartial witness is somebody who's just saying, I saw them sign the document. Kind of like what we are, right? But we are going a little step further as a notary and we're confirming that this is the person signing the document, right? So without notaries, the risk of disputes, misunderstanding, fraudulent documents, those things would be a big deal anywhere in court. Like it would be so much going on in court with them trying to figure out what's real, what's not. Just by a simple notarization on a document, if you ever had a document notarized, you know what I mean by it, right? Just by a simple notarization makes that document more valid. Right? So in short, notaries are essential gatekeepers, right? We maintain the trust and authenticity of the document. That is what we do. That's why we're so important. Believe it or not, every single notary job, I don't care what it is, it has something to do with money somewhere, some sort, somehow. Has something to do with money. So you want to make sure you executing it properly, right? You want to make sure that the notary, when you come as a notary and you're notarizing a document, there's no question that you did what you were supposed to do. So with that being said, now that we know what a notary is, how important a notary is, and how serious that job is, our next big goal is to know what documents, because we signing these documents. So what are they? So the two major ones is acknowledgments and jurats, right? Those are two major documents. You'll have a plethora of other documents every now and then coming across your line, but your major documents that you should actually have copies of is going to be acknowledgments and jurats. So if you already practicing as a notary, then you should have copies of acknowledgments. You should have copies of jurats.
It was no onions, no.
I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. So I just want to make sure you guys can hear me. So acknowledgments and jurats. So let's move forward with that. Let's talk about that because at the end of the day, when you don't really understand how that works, then people will mislead you, right? So an acknowledgement is a document that the notary uses to confirm that someone really signed the document. Right. So it's like the notary way of saying, yes, I saw the person sign. They know what they're doing. Right. And this is the document. So another way to know if you can notarize a document is making sure that the notarial wording is on the page. So with that being said, that gets a little confusing because people will notarize. If you're a notary and you don't have the proper knowledge, you will actually notarize a document just because somebody brought the document to you, right? Hey, I need this notarized. And you're like, okay, sure, sign it and I'll stamp it and sign it. That is the improper way of notarizing a document. We don't want to get in that practice because at the
That's a notary
day,
thing. Yeah, no, that's not.
do we? Maybe we should mute everybody. Brooklyn, was you able to mute?
Yep, I muted him.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, y'all. So an acknowledgement again is pretty much, so having the notarial wording on a document is kind of like having an acknowledgement. The acknowledgement is a separate sheet of paper that have the notarial wording, right? So if somebody comes to you with a document that does not have the notarial wording on it, then the acknowledgement will be one of the supplements that you can use to attach to that document, so that therefore the document is now valid and you can notarize the document. So can somebody tell me, what, if you're a notary in the state of Georgia, what is the state that you put on your document when you are notarizing a document? It asks you for this, it asks you for the county, it asks you for the state. Where are you what are you putting? Where you are at the moment, or where you got your notarial stamp? Where you are at the moment, or where you got your notarial stamp? Do anybody know, especially since we got some notaries? If I'm in the state of Georgia, where you got the stamp, okay, where you got the stamp, where you are at the moment. So the correct answer to that is wherever your feet is at the moment, that is the county that you're going to put. That is the state or the county that you're going to put, not where your stamp is. Your stamp is for the state, right? So if your stamp is for the state, you want to make sure when you sitting down notarizing a document, you're notarizing it based on where you are in that location. We already know we can't leave the state without stamp. So the state is always going to be the same wherever you got it. But where you are at the moment is where you actually will put the county or the city. So just so that does, that does become a big question, because people get confused with that. And to be honest, when I first started, I was confused with that too. So you make sure that you are putting the proper county. You don't want to be in Fulton County sitting there doing a notarization and put Gwinnett County just because that's where you got your stamp. You're going to put wherever your feet is at the moment, that is the county that you're going to use. So getting back to the acknowledgement and proper wording. So if the document doesn't have the notarial wording, which is the same wording on an acknowledgement, then you will not be notarizing that document. You have to attach something to it in order for that to be a valid document to be notarized. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, you guys? I want to make sure you understand that. Does that make sense? Good, 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 good. So that's pretty much what an acknowledgement is. So having an acknowledgement on hand in any state is important, because at the end of the day, these forms are forms that are blank, and you can use them for a document that needs to be notarized, right? So you want to make sure that you keep some copies in your notary bag. That is the safest thing to do. Notaries need to have acknowledgements. Like, we need to have them handy, because we don't want to have somebody pay us to come to a job and then we get there and they don't have the proper wording on their document. Because most people who are not notaries don't even know that that's what they need, right? Some of them don't know, some of them know, but don't have it. And they'll say, hey, I want my lease notarized. And you get there and the lease don't have the proper wording. You can't notarize that document if you don't have anything to attach to it, right? So you want to make sure that you have the proper tools in your notary bag, and that way you'll be able to, be that knowledgeable notary that I know you guys will be, right? So then you have jurats. That is the second one that I say. At the end of the day, the jurat is typically used for documents where the signer must swear in or affirm that the information contained within it is true. So y'all see where the difference lies, right? So jurats is like depositions, sworn statements, legal pleadings. The biggest difference is with a jurat, they have to verbally say something to you. I swear that the contents is true in this document. So the difference with the acknowledgement and the jurat, right? In case you didn't catch it, is one is verbal, even though you're still going to sign it, they have to verbally say something, right? Versus the acknowledgement is straight just signing the document and notarizing. The jurat, they have to verbally say that the document that they're signing the jurat for is true, and they have to swear it in verbally. Like I said, well, I said that first. You have to swear it in verbally, and you have to notarize that specific document. So that is the biggest difference, verbally versus just notarizing that document. So you want to make sure that you have a copy of a jurat, because you can. Those are blank documents that you can actually have a copy of. So just to give you a little bit more detail on the jurat so that you are very clear on how this works, is a jurat is pretty much a document that notaries use when someone signs an important document, like a deposition, because they'll call you for that, or a sworn statement, because people will do sworn statements between each other, right? And so that's pretty much like they're promising that everything in that document that you are presenting, that they need you to notarize, is true, right? So now, if you had to go to court, God forbid, they're going to say this person signed this document in front of a notary stating that this document is true. So whatever they said in there has to be valid, because they're going to hold that person to it. So the person, because that person signed that document and swore in and affirmed to you that the document is true. And they literally, so, a few years ago, before COVID, really, it was mandatory that they raise their right hand and say, I swear that the contents of the document is true. A lot of people have been since then saying, well, I really don't want to raise my right hand. And that's okay, right? They just need to verbally say that I agree that the contents in this document is true before they sign it in front of you, right? Verbal sounds better. Okay. Right. So here's why it's super important. Imagine you're filling out some type of form, like a statement, because those are typically what you'll get them called for on your own. The notary is there to make sure that the promise that they're promising the truth. The notary is there to make sure that the promise that they're promising the truth. The notary is there to make sure that the promise that they're promising to make sure that the promise that Can y'all hear me still?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm like, what happened? Was it sounding like an echo? Because I was getting a big echo.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So again, back to the jurat. So it's pretty much a document, kind of like an acknowledgement, but it is saying that what I said is the whatever that person said in front of you is actually true. And that you can say on your own account, when if you have to be in front of a judge, or if you have to be proven that this person signed the document, that they did verbally say that the documentation is true. And they'll know once that jurat is presented, they'll know, right? So you want to make sure you're using it correctly. So having a jurat ready in any state, just like an acknowledgement, is really important, because there's sworn statements being done between people all the time, parents, kids, family members, all things like that, right? But they don't necessarily know, hey, or they've spoken with an attorney and they said, well, get a notary to have you sign a jurat, right? And then they'll call you saying, hey, I need my such and such signed, but they don't give you the last piece of information saying, I need a jurat, right? So you want to make sure that you're on hand with those things. So when you are presented with those situations, you already ready, right? So with that being said, I want to know, do you guys think, can you recommend when you go do a notary job, you get there, like I was explaining, and somebody say, hey, I need this statement signed. Can you notarize the back of this statement? What would your response be? Can you say that, hey, use a jurat, I have one, let's get that notarized? Or if it's better fit for an acknowledgement, let me get that and notarize that. Can you recommend which one is needed during a notary job? Yes or no, guys? Do you think that when you go to the job, you can say, hey, use this because that's what it's supposed to be used for? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I see a lot of no's. You guys are really smart. Absolutely not. You're not an attorney, right? Unless you are an attorney. You're not an attorney. You are not allowed to recommend or give any legal advice, and that would be giving legal advice. So if somebody calls you for a job and they say, hey, I need my lease because that one, let me tell you, people do it all the time. I want to sign this lease because I'm renting out this space to whoever, and I want it notarized to make it, valid in case I got to go to court. You are not allowed to say, oh, this document don't have the proper notarial word, and let me attach an acknowledgement for you, right? Because God forbid something happens and they go to court and something happens between them two. They're like, well, the notary told me that this is what I needed to sign, right? You don't want to be that person because now you're going to be in court right with them. You cannot recommend which one is needed, but what you can do is to give them advice on, hey, let me tell you what an acknowledgement is, and let me tell you what a jurat is, because you as the notary have the knowledge now, right? And they could say, well, I want to use an acknowledgement, or I want to use a jurat. That has to be solely their decision. You can't say, I want you to use this over this, or I think you should use this over this. It's, let me explain to you what each one is, and you tell me which one you want to use. And then you'll have instances where people will say, well, I don't know which one to use. Which one you think? I can't give you that advice. I'm not an attorney and I don't practice law in my state. So with that being said, you can either consult with an attorney, consult with a friend, and let me know which one you want to use. And if you are not sure, I can always come back another time, right? Don't get into the mix up of feeling like, because I came, I got to do it, right? No, don't get yourself in a bundle of legal drama just because you decided to make a decision for somebody else. So you cannot recommend which one is needed, but you definitely can tell them which one is which. This is what this is used for. This is what this is used for. You decide what you want to use. Because even if they say, even if in your mind you're like, well, you could use this, but they say I want to use that, you're going to use what they ask you to use, and you're going to notarize it properly, right? Or appropriately. Make sense, y'all? Make sense? Okay, good. I hope y'all learned something new so far. Because this is really, like I said, this really can be a lucrative space for you. Once you know all your basics and know how to navigate being a notary, this really can be a great space. So let's get into notary laws and regulations, because at the end of the day, for those of us who are notaries, that's super important. And for those of us who are considering being notaries, it's still super important because at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're going into this industry clean, clear, and knowing what to do, how this works for you, right? So notaries often face challenging situations that test their knowledge, ethical judgment, and y'all can imagine ethical judgment all the time, and professionalism. We have to make sure we maintain professionalism at all times because we're running our own businesses, right? So as a notary, you're running a full-blown notary business, whether it's mobile, whether they come to your office, you still running a business, especially because it ends up being your brand. It's who you are as a notary, right? So here's some main things that I get people always are reaching out for, or getting in trouble for, or not sure what to do. So I want to make sure you guys are well endowed in that good information. I know that it's a lot of information, but nevertheless, especially for those of us who are interested in getting into it, you get a good idea. And for those of us who are already notaries, you're like, okay, I didn't realize this, or I knew this. It's just reassurance, right? So pressure to notarize without identification or being present. That is, I think the being present part is the number one issue people have, right? Pressure to notarize without proper ID, expired ID, or not being present. So I'm gonna give a scenario and kind of give you a best practice so you have a real take on it. But before I do that, I want to tell you guys about a case that actually went really sour. So, I don't know how old you guys are. So FedEx and Kinko's used to be a company together, right? And I'm probably telling my age. And so back when they was a company together, just like what UPS do now, you have a notary and you actually have an employee that they pay for to go get their notary stamp. They don't give them no training. They don't give them nothing. They just say, hey, can you become a notary? We'll pay for it. And that way, when people come in, we'll have a notary on staff, right? And that is it. So lo and behold, they did that with most of their offices. Now they don't do it at all, right? You barely can get it done that way. Now UPS actually has it to where you can go in and get a notary when the notary is there. But FedEx and Kinko's went away with it. The reason being is because of this big lawsuit that happened. So what happened is it was a gentleman and he did, what they asked, and he became a notary. He ended up notarizing a document for someone who one of the parties was missing. They signed it. That person's name was signed and everything. And I don't know whether or not he saw it being signed or he just overlooked it because all the signatures was on the page, but he notarized the document.
No,
Later on, that person was like, I wasn't even there to sign this document. And this is a $3 million or some big number project, right? And so I don't want no part of it. Like, you signed the document. He's like, I didn't sign the document. Guess who it's going back to? Who's the notary? I thought we muted. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys. So nevertheless, Kinko's and FedEx got the paperwork. Yeah, y'all getting sued because this person is suing y'all saying that, yup, this was notarized in the office here, and that person was overseas, proof that he was on a boat somewhere overseas, right? So guess what? Now they're like, well, we didn't notarize it. It was our employee who notarized it. And the employee is like, well, I worked for them and they told me. So now you got he say, I said, that ain't fair because this is what they told me to do, right? And now FedEx and Kinko's is like, but we're not a notary, you are. So lo and behold, they went to court and the first judge said, well, we're gonna hold y'all both accountable, right? That's just how it's gonna work. But FedEx and Kinko's, because they got endless money, and this person that's an employee absolutely didn't have no insurance, no E&O insurance, y'all, nothing. So now he's like, how am I supposed to fight all of this on my own? Because he's not technically covered under FedEx and Kinko's. Because when you become a notary, the only name on that stamp is yours. When you go get sworn in, the only person that gets sworn in is you, not the business, not nobody else, nobody you work for, right? So now they overturned it. Another judge took on the case, overturned it, and made it the notary's fault. So guess what? This notary had to figure out how to get out of this trouble, imprisonment, fines, all of that good stuff. Well, not good stuff, but y'all get the drift. But nevertheless, that's a lesson taught because at the end of the day, you have to know your job. I don't care if it's an attorney telling you what to do. I don't care if it's a signing service, the client. Once you know your job, they can't persuade you to do it any other way. So the scenario is, let's just say, what we have here, Sharon. Sharon is in a hurry to get her power of attorney notarized because she's about to leave on a business trip. So the notaries show up, and she like, I don't have no ID, but you know me, we've done work before. I've been here, just go ahead and sign it. I'll show you ID another time. Sign it. Let me sign it and you go ahead because you've done work for me before, right? The notary needs to refuse that. I don't care if this is your friend, your neighbor, refuse it, right? Because you want to make sure you're still doing it properly. There is an option on a lot of acknowledgments that says two different things. It'll say, presented ID or known before me. Known before me simply means that they didn't show you ID, you just saying you know them. I don't suggest you ever use that. You don't want to get caught up in a situation. And if these are friends or families and neighbors, they don't want you to get caught up in that situation either. So guess what they're going to do? They're going to make sure they show you ID so you can record the ID, right? So best practice for the notary, of course, is to follow state laws. Always require valid ID, right? Government issued ID, ID that you understand and you can read. Even if you know the person, don't skip that step. Right? Even if they got to come back and bring you ID before you notarize a document, hold on to it. Guys, get the ID. You want the ID. You don't want to ever have a situation where you're like, well, I knew her and or she was a coworker and get ID, right? We're not going to be in the practice of even starting to practice inappropriately how notarizing documents, right? So then we got handling documents in a language that a notary does not understand. Handling documents in a language that notary do not understand. Let me ask you guys this in the chat. Let me know, can you use an interpreter when you are notarizing a document? The signer, can the signer use an interpreter when you're notarizing a document? And while you tell me yes or no, I'll read the question. Do we make a copy of the ID at the signing? When you say at the signing, at a notary job, you should never make a copy of government ID. That is also illegal. I'm going to guess no. I'm going to say yes, no. Anybody else? I'm going to guess no. Can the signer, the notary state, is the notary state specific? I'm not understanding, is the notary state specific? Can the signer use an interpreter? No, because we are not. You're on the right track. So no, the answer is no, right? And Ashley's right, because we're not sure what is being translated, right? So you cannot use an interpreter unless you understand the same language, and then you don't need one at that point, right? So an interpreter, yep, could be lying, absolutely, because people are people, and they be people in. So absolutely not. You cannot use an interpreter when you are notarizing a document. If you and that person who needs to sign the document do not understand each other, then that's a barrier that can't be crossed. Call a friend, phone a friend, call a friend, get them to do the notary job for you, right? Not call them on the phone and say, explain it. No, that's not okay. That's still an interpreter. You want them to do the job because they understand the language in writing and verbally, right? Do you have to have a notary for each state? Well, you can only have a notary for your state, not each state, right? You can't have you can't be a notary in a state that you just say, I want to be a notary in Texas and you live in New York. That's not how that works. You would have to be a notary in your state. Whether you live or work in that state, that is perfectly fine, right? So, handling documents in a language the notary do not understand, give you a scenario for that. So Anna comes into the notary office and she has a document written entirely in Spanish. The notary don't speak Spanish, don't understand Spanish. And she's like, oh, well, her husband walks in and says, I'll just explain it. And then she'll sign it. And then Anna don't understand it, but she'll sign it and you go ahead and notarize it. Anna don't have a clue what's going on. She's like, what? He can be making her sign anything, right? So you want to make sure that that interpreter, it doesn't matter if it's family, guys. It doesn't matter if it's a child, a spouse, a grandma. You cannot notarize that document at all if there's an interpreter present. That's just how that works, right? We don't want to get into trying to explain to a judge, hey, no, she didn't understand me and I didn't understand her, but I knew that the notarial area I was supposed to notarize. They're gonna be looking at you like you crazy, and you better have that E&O insurance. So we cannot use an interpreter as notaries when you are notarizing a document. Look, guys, protect yourself, right? And when you do, document the refusal. And a reason why in your notary journal, in the cases where, it's ever a question where I'm not going to be able to do it, that's what you want to do. We're not in the business of going to do a notary job to refuse it. That should not be the mindset that we're going in. We're going in to try to help somebody get it done. But there are instances like that you will need to refuse, right? So last, as far as notary laws and regulations, to give you some good ethical judgment, dealing with signers under duress or coercion, right? That's another big thing. I don't know about y'all, but y'all know people drink all the time. They'll call a notary, and then by 7 o'clock, when the notary's supposed to be there, they done had several beers. That is not okay. That's right. You're not going to notarize a document for somebody who's intoxicated, right? You're not going to notarize documents for somebody who is in duress, which is also like coercion. And to give you an example of that is, I'll give you my example of that. I have, so where I'm at, there's plenty of nursing home facilities. There's plenty of hospitals by me. And so I get a lot of calls to the hospital, to a hospice, or even a nursing facility. And at the end of the day, some of these people are not understanding what's going on, and then you have some who's do. And y'all know that sometimes in these facilities, older people will have Alzheimer's. And they have bad days and good days and things like that. And I've learned that over the time becoming a notary. And you don't want to get into a situation like I did. I handled it properly, but I don't want you guys to get into a situation and not be able to handle it properly. So I pretty much was called by her son. She called me out to do a notary job, and she was like, he called me out to do a notary job, and he was like, hey, I need to do these power of attorney documents for my mom, how much it's going to cost, all that good stuff. So we talked for a minute, and he was like, she's well aware of everything. She's nothing's wrong with her. She's just really elderly, and none of us can take care of her. He failed to tell me that he had two other sisters, right? And he also failed to tell me if mom was definitely okay with just him being there, right? So I get there, meet mom, amazing, very smart older lady, beautiful, and it's like, she's looking like, and I'm like, okay, so do you know what you're signing? Because you are allowed to say to someone who you feel like may be coerced or in duress, do you know what you're signing? Right? Yeah, I know what I'm signing. But she looked kind of like, I know what I'm signing, but I don't know if I want to sign it. So my next question is, are you willing to sign this paperwork? And she's like, I want my daughters to be here. And I was like, well, where are your daughters? She's like, well, but they couldn't make it. And, I don't know if I want to sign this document. And I'm like, well, you don't have to sign this document. And he started pressing her, Mom, sign the document. Might as well get it done. Da, 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 da. But because I already saw that she felt like she was under duress, I was not going to notarize that document, right? We got to use our judgment because we're human beings at the same time. So what I specifically said to him was, hey, maybe you should have your sisters present, and then I can come back. I won't charge you an additional travel fee. But I can come back and we can get it done when everybody is you know, ready to sign the document and when she's more comfortable to sign the document. He had an attitude, but at the end of the day, it did not get notarized. It did not get notarized. He was like, fine, I'll give you a call when we figure this out. Eventually he calmed down a little bit because she was not going to sign it. She didn't want to sign it. And so I wasn't going to make her sign it, and I wasn't going to be in the midst of somebody's family feud. So once I realized that she was a little skeptical, I immediately retracted and said, hey, we don't have to do it today. We can do it another day. And she was more than happy with that. Yeah, let's do it when my daughters is here. I don't really want to sign the document. So it's kind of like he was forcing her to try to get the documents done. And we don't want to ever be in the midst of something like that, because you will be using the E&O insurance, because family feuds can get crazy, right? How would you have handled this if inside someone's home that is in someone's home that was in a nursing facility where somebody lived? So that's pretty much, you just kind of gracefully be respectfully and bow out. There are instances where you can ask that third party who's not signing the document to give you a chance to talk with the person who's signing the document and for them to leave the room, right? Because at the end of the day, the only person that needs to be present is the signers. The signers. You and the person signing the document. That's it. So you are more than welcome to say, hey, if you give us a minute, can me and her just sit and get the document signed? If you can step out for a moment, that's a-okay, guys, right? When you're confident at what you're doing, you know what you're doing, and you are respectful to people, they listen. And the document can get signed if you can sit with her and she's a little bit more comfortable and she's like, no, yeah, I'm gonna sign the document, right? But it has to be at her own free will. So that's also another instance where something like that would work. So again, we're not dealing with signers that are under duress or coercion. We're not going to notarize that document. Handling documents in a language that a notary does not understand, right? Or that the signer doesn't understand. We're not using interpreters, right? Pressure to notarize without proper ID. We're not doing that either. And we're not doing it if the person is not present. Hope you guys got that. All right. So with that being said, identifying different documents that need notarization, right? So we have a little ethicalness going on. We know about the background and all of that good stuff. So documents that mainly need notarization, that if you go to the bank, a lot of the banks don't do it if you're not only if you're not a part of the bank, but also if it's not their documents. They have started straying people away. The second thing is the only other place that do it is independent offices who are notaries. And then those that are working in UPS, they are more than likely, they haven't had no full training, so they're going to notarize anything. And for the most part, it's probably not going to be correct, because all they're doing is signing and stamping. And I've seen it thousands of times. I've even had a young lady come to me because her documents, her probate documents got rejected by the court because she went to UPS to do the document and they did it incorrectly. So nevertheless, real estate deeds, those need notarizations. Mortgage documents, power of attorney documents, as I was just explaining. You have affidavits, right? Wills, codicils, living trusts, divorce papers, adoption papers, promissory notes, because remember, with the promissory note, we're going to attach a what? With the promissory note, you as a notary know that we're going to attach a what? I'm waiting for you guys to give me an answer. What would you attach with a promissory note? Acknowledgement. Correct, correct, correct. Contract agreements, vehicle title transfers, but we're not going to tell them that, but we know, right? It's always good to know what you are supposed to do. Contract agreements, vehicle title transfers, guardianship agreements, because kids get emancipated these days, loan modifications, rental agreement leases, medical authorization forms. That's just to name a few documents. With that being said, every single house you see that your eyes lay on need a notary at some point in time. So are we needed? Absolutely. Is it still going to be a notary needed in the far future? Absolutely. We still are going to be present in deterring fraud, especially because fraud is getting bigger and bigger these days. It's like people are doing some crazy stuff to where now they making things get notarized for all kinds of reasons, and it just doesn't make any sense these days. It's like, oh my gosh, that need to be notarized too? So we are needed. Somebody did ask in the chat before I move on. Somebody did ask in the chat about Ron, and which is remote online notarization. And somebody also asked, I think I seen another question here about how do you record the ID. So first and foremost, you should have a journal, right? And we'll talk a little bit about it. That's where you record everything. And then with the Ron, that's a remote online notary. And being a remote online notary strictly means that you are doing it from the comfort of your home. Can everybody do it? Absolutely not. If your state allows you to be a Ron, you can be a Ron. But if your state is not practicing Ron laws, then you cannot be a Ron. I don't care what the circumstances, right? So where could you find the most current laws and regulations affecting you as a notary or notary when you become a notary? Is your state website, Superior Court Clerk Office, because sometimes the Superior Court Clerk Office is where you actually get sworn in. And in some states, it's the Secretary of State. So whichever one that you get sworn in, that's the one that you want to also connect with and get your primer, which is also your notary book. Then you have the National Notary Association. If you are a notary, you should automatically have this website in your back pocket, because at the end of the day, it has good information, even if you're not a member. Then you have elaws.us. That's one place people don't seem to share. We're not attorneys, but this site specifically helps notaries tremendously, guys. It will actually help you learn different notary laws and how to do things with notaries in your specific state. So those are some great avenues that you guys could take advantage of today. If you're ready to get your application in and you didn't, get on your state site or your Secretary of State site and absolutely get started with your application. You literally could take a course while you're doing the application. You can do all that simultaneously because it does not take a long process for most states to become a notary, right? So you want to make sure you're executing it. And then, with that being said, you need a laser printer as a notary. Let me see something. Did I already put that in here? No. I wanted to make sure I wasn't going to talk about it ahead of time. So you definitely need to have a laser printer as a notary. An inkjet printer is not going to work because paper with inkjet printers, your words will run if it get wet or damp or anything like that. So you want to make sure you are, if you're a notary and you have to print out any documents, you're doing it with a laser printer because you want those documents to stand the test of time. You need to have your notary stamp or a notary embosser. We haven't used an embosser in like 5 years. And just so you have an idea of what an embosser is, you guys can see me, right? Or you can't. You can see me. You guys can see me?
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. Thank you. Because I was like, wait, can you? Because I'm not actually looking there. So this is what an embosser looks like. So I do suggest everybody get one because once in a blue moon, you will use it, but you will barely use it. You will use your notary stamp more than you use anything. And if your state doesn't forbid you from having two notary stamps, I always suggest you have a backup. There may be two states that altogether that in their law book says you can only have one stamp at a time. I still suggest you have two because if something happens to one, you want that backup, especially when you're getting work on a regular basis, right? So your laser printer, your notary stamp and embosser, you want to have your acknowledgments, your jurats, copies of those, and then you want to have your journal. Your journal is where everything will be recorded. I don't care what it is that you do. When you walk out your house as a notary, you want to have your journal. Everything needs to be recorded in your journal. The only person, can y'all tell me who's the only person that can get a copy, who can get the information out of your journal other than you? Drop it in the chat if you have an answer for me. Okay, y'all are saying judge, a lawyer. Definitely not a lawyer. So the only person that can get, who can take your journal from you to see the personal information that's in the journal is a police officer with a warrant or a judge with a subpoena. That's it. They can't knock on your door and say, hey, we need your journal for a case. Where is the warrant? Where this is people's personal information. You should have it locked up. Or, and to be honest, when I say locked up, I don't necessarily mean you should have it inside your in an actual lock. It does not require you to be with an actual lock, but it needs to be, if you have an office, put it in your office where nobody else is accessing it. Right? So you want to make sure it's only you that access your particular journal, but the IDs is recorded in there, right? You're gonna write all the information in there. You're not gonna take a picture of the ID. If you are dealing with signing services and they ask you to take a picture of the ID to send it to them and upload it to their system, you can do that and then erase it from your phone. But the only ID that you absolutely cannot do that for is government issued ID, military ID, not government issued. Military ID cannot, I don't care if it's retired or not, military ID is illegal on all accounts to actually make a copy, right? But a driver's license, if you want to get it and upload it and then delete it from your phone, yes, right? But we're not going to be in the practice of doing that. If somebody asks you, before I get into this last part, if somebody asks you, hey, I want to notarize a copy of my license or my passport, you absolutely cannot just take a copy of it and just stamp it and sign it. Because at that point, you just notarized your own signature, right? And we can't notarize our own signature, right? So you want to make sure you're attaching the proper document. And in some states, you can get a copy certificate to add to it, or you can use that acknowledgement, right? But again, you can't suggest it. They have to tell you that's what they need, right? Or you can give them options, right? So the best bet is to have copies so you can give them options. Now, with that being said, you have to make a copy of the ID. That is the law. You need to make a copy of the ID. So they need to bring the real ID in front of you, and you need to make a copy of the ID. Now, let's be real, guys. Do we walk around with printers all the time or copy machines? No, we don't. But so what I'm going to tell you is if they bring you a copy, the copy of the ID that they bring you need to be the same one that they're showing you to use as the ID, right? They can't say, I want a copy of my passport notarized, but I'm showing you my license. Where's the passport? Right? So whatever it is, if they say, well, I'll make a copy, that's fine. Bring that same ID with you because I need to be able to verify that you copied this ID. And then you can do the proper notarization with the proper document attached. And when I say attach, I mean stapled to that document. Do not do a copy of ID and not staple that acknowledgement or the copy certificate to the document. Same thing for most documents. The only time you won't staple anything acknowledgement is when it's documents for a closing or a refinance. Outside of that, you want, or a loan modification, those kind of documents. Outside of that, you want to staple it. You don't want a loose acknowledgement laying around that they can attach to other stuff that you didn't even know was being attached to, right? So you need to staple it to that document. So I hope that makes sense. Moving right along, y'all. I know I'm a little bit past time and it's not going to take too much longer, but I just want to make sure I get this information out to you guys because it's super important that you understand that being a notary doesn't stop there, right? You can be a loan signing agent, which I'm sure a lot of you heard of. And in some states, it's really classified as a notary signing agent only because some states will tell you you can't be a loan signing agent, right? So we just changed the verbiage and we made it work. So certified mortgage inspectors, field inspectors, apostilles, and the apostille is something like a foreign notary, although it's really no such thing, but it's really a facilitator. You literally will get those documents notarized because they're going to another country. Then you have wet and efficient, fingerprint roller tech, transaction coordinator, which deal more with real estate agents. And then you have auto notary services rep. So I'm gonna drop a gem for you guys. You guys can definitely sign up to be an auto notary services rep if you're already a notary. You can literally put the app on your phone, right? And it is called Maverick, maverick.com, or you can actually look in your app and your app service, whether it's Apple or Android, and you can get the app, the Maverick app for auto notary services. And you literally can add your information in right then and there, and now you'll be in a database. So when they need somebody to come out to notarize documents for a vehicle, they will look for the person in that area. So I know y'all probably thinking, well, they go to dealerships and they'll sign it there. Guess what? These celebrities don't want to go into dealerships. These people with money don't want to go into dealerships. If I got a lot of money and I don't want to sit in the dealership waiting for you to go through the whole rigmarole about how to get a car. I just want you to bring these Range Rovers to my house. Guess who they're going to call? They're going to go to Maverick and find a notary that can meet the dealer at that person's home, right? And in some cases, I've had a situation where you have to sign an NDA as well because these people are people that don't want to be in the dealership. They don't have to because they got the money to sit home and have the car come to them. They will call a notary to come meet them there to notarize the portions that need to be notarized that would have been done in office, right? So get into that app. That's also that's a good app to be a part of, especially if you're if you notary work and you really haven't dibble dabbled in much other stuff. This is just that simple. Now, with that being said, I know a lot of people hear about loan signing agents, so I'm just going to give you a quick brief on that. A notary signing agent is a specially trained certified notary public who knows how to handle loan documents. Also, guys, I hear people say all the time, I'll just do general notary work, or I'm only getting general notary work. There is no such thing as general notary work. Get that out your mind. No such thing. Somebody can call you. Actually, I did it today. A couple was at, so I'm not far from one of the largest cancer centers in the US. So a couple called me today because they're doing a closing. The buyer is somewhere else. They already had the seller documents done, but now that they had 2 more documents a part of that closing that needed to be completed, and they needed a notary. So they called me to come there to notarize those documents. Those are loan documents, but that's still not considered a loan signing job or a general notary work, right? It is a notary job. At the end of the day, no matter who calls you, it's a notary job because your job is to notarize the documents, right? So you don't distinguish between the two, because you can get a call from somebody off your Google page or your business page asking you to notarize seller documents, asking you to notarize anything, just like you can get it from a signing service, an attorney, and things like that, right? So there's no such thing as general notary work. So a signing agent, again, the difference between what you call someone who does notary signing agent work and someone who does notary work is the fact that you know how to walk a borrower through a closing. That's it. That's the difference. Do you need a certification for that? Is it required? No. Should you get one? Absolutely. But do you need one? No. So however long you've been a notary is how long you've been a notary signing agent. And I think people think, oh, I have to be certified. You absolutely, there's no requirement by state law that says you have to be required to do it. But I do suggest you get training in it, because you can't do something you don't understand or know. And National Notary Association is one of the places that people tend to go and get a notary, get your signing agent certification. And that's because they can get you into other doors, right? But even them don't teach you how to do the job. They give you the laws, not teach you how to do the job. And that's what we do. We teach you how to make money and how to do the job. So I kind of wanted to touch on that because I'm quite sure coming in as a notary, whether you are a notary yet or not, you're hearing all this hoopla about being a notary signing agent. So I want to clarify that for you guys. So now you guys are knowledgeable, right? And you know what you want and what you don't want and how you want to continue to move forward. So last but not least, we got to talk about this money. So fee structure. I'm gonna give you an example of a fee structure. Somebody called me from the street, and so I did a little breakdown so that you guys can kind of get a visual of how that works, right? Because people say all the time, well, I only could charge $2, especially in Georgia. I only could charge $5. So I don't understand how people are making money, right? First and foremost, structure yourself as a notary business.
Don't get that with that thing in there.
Structure yourself as a notary business and not just a notary public. That's first and foremost, right? So just to give you a generic breakdown of for somebody who lives in Georgia, and you can kind of break it down according to your state as well, right? So whatever your notarization fee is, it's per document. So every time you stamp your notary stamp, that is what you're charging, right? So for us, it's $2. So travel fee. If I am going 30 minutes or less, my travel fee is going to be $50, right? I'm not eating that. I'm not going down on that. Gas is too much. Time is too much. So $50 now becomes $52 because you told me it was only one document and I'm traveling to you. And it's 15 minutes from where I live, right? Then you call and say, hey, are you able to print these documents out for me? Because I don't have a printer. Absolutely. Because I'm a notary and we do all of those things, right? I'm going to print the documents out, but I'm going to be compatible to the pages, because a realm of paper, y'all, is a realm of paper. And it ain't cheap these days. So I'm going to charge you according to the printing fee, right? And so in this case, 30 pages, $6, right? I'm gonna add that all together, and I'm not gonna sit there and break down. I'm gonna charge you this, and that. I'm gonna specifically say, because I already know what my fees are, right? I'm gonna charge you $58. I'm gonna charge you $58 to come to you to notarize your document for this and this and that. And they typically, I mean, I don't get much pushback for whatever price that I'm giving them. But this is just an example of how you can do it, like how to break that down, right? And then they'll say, okay, no problem. When can you come? And then we'll discuss it then. Now, one thing I do require is a deposit up front, because y'all know people be late, they take their time, they change their mind. I ain't got time for that. Our time is valuable. We can't get that back. So when you commit to it, you commit to it. And to be honest, I never really had an issue with that, because nobody call you because they think they need a notary. People call you because they need a notary. So if you didn't get the job, it's because you talked yourself out of that job, right? They need you. I don't just look at paperwork and say, let me just call and say, hey, I need a notary. Let me find out. No, when I get a document that I know need a notary, I'm going to call and find a notary. So it's not like we're selling something. It's not like we're out here saying, it's a possibility I could get the job. No, you got the job. If they called you, you got the job. Unless, again, you talk yourself out of the job, right? Now, that is a simple structure on how you can charge. You can base it off that. You have your convenience fees, and there's so many other fees that we add to that, that, it can really get a whole lot of strategicness to where you're at a bare minimum of $150 every time you walk out your house, right? And that goes for signing work, when it comes to loan modifications, probate, estate documents, and all those things. So just to give you a little bigger scenario, calculate your earnings for a notary job. Let's just say you say, hey, I want to make $4,000 a month. I know that's where, I want to be, and I'm comfortable with there. So I gotta strive. This is my goal, right? 5 notary jobs per week. Number of weeks, of course, y'all know it's 4 weeks in a month on average. You do 5 jobs, that's 20 jobs in 1 month, right? It literally takes you anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes for most notary jobs, if that much, right? Total monthly earnings could be $4,000. And this is just a scenario on just a generic scale. So a notary is making $200 per job, performing 5 notary jobs per week. That's earning that's $4,000 a month. Or you can do 10 jobs at $100, right? That's even less. And then there you go. You still made $4,000, right? That's only 5 for 5 days, 2 jobs. 2 jobs. I did 2 jobs today before I even did this signing. And I actually, and that was in addition to some other ones that I already had, because these 2 was actually calling me from Google. And like I was saying, it was a trucker. The second call was a trucker, and all he needed was his document notarized for VIN verification. And I didn't say that, but that's also something that, notaries do. We do VIN verifications because those motor vehicle documents need to be notarized, and truckers are on the road all the time, right? And they'll call you and be like, hey, we stopped in Georgia, or we stopped here, and we need a notary to do a VIN verification because we can't move forward with this truck, right? And so in an instance like that, you absolutely can do that as well, right? Because you're still notarizing a document, you're just verifying the VIN. So we do all types of things as notaries. It's too much to try to cram it in a masterclass, but I definitely am excited that I was able to come in and give you guys some game, give you guys some information. So that way, for those of you who are notaries who haven't really done anything, now you can kind of say, okay, maybe I should get into this. Or you could say, hey, it's not for me. I'm just going to pass it by. Whatever you decide, I hope that this was informational for you. I am open to taking questions. We got another 10 more minutes. We can ask some questions. You can drop it in the chat if you like, or one at a time. You can unmute yourself. It's up to you. Or Brooklyn, if you think whatever you think is better.
Somebody has their hand raised, Miss Deborah. I'll unmute her.
Okay. Hey, Miss Deborah.
Hi, I just have a question. So I was notarized. I applied to be a notary in New Jersey.
Okay.
But I currently moved to Florida. So I just wanted to know, how can I can I transfer it, or how would that process go? I would just have to reapply for Florida.
Correct. That's correct. So you can't transfer it. The one you have in Jersey, it'll still be valid until it expires.
Okay.
So, but if you're in Florida, I would suggest you go to the Secretary of State in Florida and go ahead and start the application in Florida. I will tell you that I did see quite a few Florida in here. And if you are playing your cards right, what I do know about Florida and a lot of my students, they are dominating that industry, whether they in Miramar, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. Notaries are making good money in Florida, and a lot of them are deciding to take the route of apostille, because you have a lot of Hispanic and Haitian community that send stuff to their countries, and they need those documents apostille. So the money into that industry is really well as well. So you definitely need to get a new notary stamp for Florida.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Who's next? Do you know anything about notaries in California? Absolutely. I have quite a few students who are notaries in California. Michaela, if you want to unmute, you can ask your question. No?
Okay, sorry
Oh.
about that.
It's okay.
Do you know like about the process in California?
Yes,
Because I came late.
it's okay. The process is a lot longer in California, and typically they will mail it to you.
Mhm.
But also California is one of those states that is kind of like we feel like it originated from, to be honest.
Oh wow, okay.
I have notaries that are six-figure notaries in California. And it's not going to be in every state that you could be a six-figure notary, but California is one of those states. So
Okay.
if you're a notary already, are you a notary already?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so yes, I would definitely want to start that process if you're looking to make more money or an additional income, and it's not strenuous. The good thing, like I was saying at the beginning, even though it's not a super sexy thing, because people don't think, let me just become a notary and make money. You can do it on your time whenever you want. If you don't want, it's like the money is there to make if you want to make it, and if you just don't want to do it, you don't have to do it.
It just seemed easy. Like, I don't know, like something to have in your back pocket.
Yeah, exactly. Especially if you work in other places, they love to hear, oh, you're a notary. Because the thing is, when you are working for somebody who pay for your stamp, you can't use it to make money. So I always tell people, even if you work for a company, get your own stamp, right? You pay.
Mhm.
So that way you could take it home with you at the end of the night. And if you want to work it outside of those hours, you can. They have no say so. But if they buy it, they do have a say so in saying you can only use it while you're here. But here's the deal. When you decide to quit or get fired, they can't keep your stamp. It goes with you. Now you can use it for your business.
Okay.
So
Okay, that was
yeah,
informative. Thank you.
you're welcome. Leighton, am I saying that right?
Yes, there's a question that I wanted to ask. If you can you hear me? Because
I
I'm on the
can.
bus. So. Okay,
I
good.
can.
There's a question I wanted to ask. I can remember prior to migrating to the US, there's some immigration documents that I had to sign. There's a notary public that was located in the Jamaica where I'm from. Is notary becoming a notary signing agent? Is it not limited to just the US? That can they literally go outside of the country and sign documents that relating to immigration and so forth? Is that possible?
So you're going in and out, but I just want to make sure I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So you're asking about a notary signing documents that's going in and out of the country?
Pertaining to immigration matters, I was just speaking specifically to the fact that a person being filed for, because from my recollection, there back then there's another republic that was located in Jamaica that was signing immigration documents on behalf of persons migrating to the US. Is that possible that notary public or notary signing agents can definitely go outside of the country and still act in that capacity?
No, that's not possible. Not at all. Nope. And the only thing we can do as notaries, again, is being an apostille facilitator, and we can notarize documents that's going out of the country, but you have to physically be here with me and wherever I am and not out of the country because I can't notarize those documents. Does that make sense?
I guess that was a strange one then, because that notary public was located in Jamaica that was, acting. That was a long time ago, so I don't know if the laws must have
So that
changed or
notary
what, but
public in Jamaica was just a notary or a law official? Because typically
it,
outside of the states, you have to be some type of law official to even practice a form of notary.
there's a possibility that it could be, but I don't have a complete recollection because I was a teenager then. But I can, remember my mom would carry me there, and there are some papers that I had to sign and so forth.
More
So
than
there's a
likely, they had
possibility.
them apostilled from here. More than likely, they were apostilled from here. And that notary out there, once they got the documents, notarized it on that side. And that's possible. It's just that we can't intertwine with it.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. Keisha?
Hi. Is there anything that disqualifies us from becoming a notary?
A felony charge that's recent of moral turpitude. Yep, that's it.
You said moral.
Mhm.
What is that?
So doing something that would be morally or ethically wrong.
Oh, okay.
So I'm trying to think of a good example. Getting a felony charge for it's pretty much like white collar crimes. Getting the felony for lying about something or doing something fraudulent.
Oh, okay. Like scamming, pretty
That
much.
too. Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Believe it or not, if somebody got locked up for, and I'm just giving an example, like marijuana or something like that, that wouldn't be a immediate disqualification.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. And then we have B. Takila. I was gonna take the easy route, girl.
I think that's why I put the B first.
Go ahead.
Just to piggyback off of what Keisha said, or I actually have an original question, but this just popped up. Because my sister, she did 8 for second degree.
Mm-hmm.
Would she be able to be a notary?
How long ago?
It was my baby 12. So it happened over 10 years ago.
I would apply. I would
Okay.
absolutely apply. So just a quick, they don't share this information, and I found out this over time, getting to know the system and people. They give you points. But I don't know how they decided to make a point system for notaries, but they did. And they'll give her so many points, but that long ago and not being in trouble again, she might not have enough points to disqualify her. So I would suggest she just try.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then my original question was, how could we start today?
So I have some courses that I will share with you guys and drop the links. And I think that if you are not a notary, I would start with the notary course. And if you are a notary, but you really want to jump into signing agent and all the other jobs, then I would start with the signing agent course. And I also have a monthly membership where once you're in the courses, I don't suggest, unless you are a notary and you already making some kind of money and you really like, I don't need the courses. I just want to know all that I need to know. The membership is only $20 a month. And every month we do 4 learning Zooms and 2 20-minute working Zooms because we have to work on our business. And so those are the 3 options that I can drop in here for you guys. I'll take about 2 more questions and then I'll drop that information. And then that's how you'll stay connected with me and that, so that you can grow your business.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And D Hurt. I think she was trying to ask a question. somebody said, how long you have to be a U.S. citizen to do the notary? So to be a notary, if you're a U.S. citizen, that's it. It's no, you have to be here for a certain amount of years. If you are a citizen, you can be a notary. Miss Violet.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have a question. I'm just recently a notary. So I
Nice.
do the
Congratulations.
loan signing and all of that. I was interested in the Maverick app that you was just speaking about.
Okay.
So go ahead.
Let me see. Were you able to, you weren't able to find it. Let me,
I wasn't.
give me 1 second. I'm going to find it for you. I'll take one more question while I find the Maverick for her, unless you had another question, Miss Violet.
No, that was it. All the information that you gave was excellent. I've enjoyed it. So I will be looking at your information and going from there. But
Yeah.
our presentation was awesome.
Oh, thank you. So I did drop the courses, and I'm gonna drop the Maverick link as well. So
Thank
Drop
you.
your social media as well.
okay. Maverick Notary.
I
It's
appreciate
actually
you.
called Mavisign. But it's funny because I say Maverick because when I first started doing them, they used to be like, "Oh, are you gonna call a Maverick?" They was calling the notaries Mavericks.
Oh, got
Because
you.
we were working cars, doing notary jobs.
Right.
But the link to Mavisign, I did put it in there for you guys. That's something, if you're a notary, just go ahead and click on that link, put the app on your phone, get acclimated to it. And on Instagram, I am at Ladies in a Stamp. And then
Okay.
if you guys see it, it should be my name on the tag. And I'll do it in here too.
Thanks again.
You're welcome. Anybody else have questions? I also put my tag in there as well. I appreciate it, you guys. I hope you had some good information. If you feel like you learned something new, drop some fire in the chat. I always like to see that I've helped somebody, even if it's one thing new that you learned. Nice, nice. I appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you. Y'all go ahead and screenshot this Zoom and tag her.
Of course.
And
Yes.
let her know
$299.
how
Yeah.
good y'all
And it's a payment plan, guys. I'm sorry that, but it's also a payment plan built in there too. And you have 1 year access to each one of those. So it's not just you pay and then once you get your certificate, that's it. You actually have a year access because I'm always updating in there. Because y'all know notary laws will change and things will change, and it will send out an email and say, hey, check out this chapter again because we done added some new stuff to it, and it allows you to do that. So you have a full year access. So you're not just booted out once you do get your certificate. And you will get a certificate once you complete the quiz in the notary course, the quizzes, and same thing with the signing agent course. All right, y'all. It was a pleasure to be able to meet you guys, to talk to you. Thank you, Brooklyn. I appreciate your time and your community.
Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. They loving it. I got people on TikTok. I was recording on TikTok, so they want me to drop your links. Once you get the replay, can you give me the replay so that way I can post this in the community, and I'll also post all of your links there as well. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you. You ladies have an amazing, and gentlemen, have an amazing evening.
Thank you. This was awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Brooklyn.
You guys are welcome. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.